Hi guys. Well, this is part 2 of the stream saga, and if you thought I was pessimistic about how it was going in this area last week, you're in for a world of pain today. I know, it sounds like I've been too hard on myself, and that's a fair point. The colouring isn't finished in this section. In fact, it hasn't even got the leaf or branch details on the ground, let alone ferns and trees. So it would end up looking quite different by the time it's complete. But there's still something unsettling me at this point. Even looking at it now, it just doesn't feel right. And feeling is something that I'm really trying to capture on the layout. So, like the moss a few weeks back, if something doesn't feel right, it's quite a big issue, as it will hinder the final result I get, possibly leading to the layout getting thrown off the balcony, which we don't want. Of course, the obvious missing part of the stream is the water itself, and there's a chance that I can pull it back when I apply it. Well, you've seen the video thumbnail and title, so no, it doesn't. But still, watch me do it anyway. On every layout up to this one, I've used 2-part resin as sold by the likes of WWS Scenics. And it comes in 2 bottles, and is super easy to use. But before I get to pour in the stream, I need to add some dams to hold the water back on each individual level. On Corish, I used hot glue. The problem with that is that it's almost opaque when it's cooled down again, so I struggled with the final look and had to sort that out. But this time, I've a better plan. This is UV cured resin. It comes in a little bottle with a nice tip, and is quite viscous, which means that it's really easy to work with. If you haven't seen this stuff being used before, once it's applied to the layout, it's treated with a UV light to cure it solid. And it cures seriously quick. I'm talking a matter of seconds. This is a simple UV torch, and by the time I've run up and down the length of the resin strip, it's rock hard. Of course, the other benefit, aside from it curing quick to suit my busy lifestyle and incredibly short attention span, is that it is completely clear. So, when the proper resin pour is poured over it, the dam will be invisible, which I like. Because I'd like the pools fairly deep, I'm banking up the dams with 3 or 4 runs. I've enjoyed this so much that I'm going to make it my life's work to find places to use this on every single build that I do forever. Right, the dams are in place, so the next job is to seal the edge of the board in. I'm using hot glue for this, because why not? And I found some offcuts of Foamex that I use from the Corish build. When this stuff is pressed up against the side of the layout, the now sandwiched hot glue will compress and form a water or resin tight bond. I bet nothing will go wrong when I pour the resin now. It's such a good job done. I won't even bother checking that it's completely sealed. I just completely assume that it is. And at this point, I was enjoying the UV resin so much that I decided that it would be silly of me to use the 2-part resin and wait a day or 2 for it to cure, when I could just use the UV stuff for the whole shebang. It's not a massive area, so my little bottle will have more than enough to do the whole thing. And I can get ready for detailing quicker than I can lose any confidence about the seal from the hot glue. Is that family shame I feel down the back of my neck? Anyway, I wasn't going to stand here with my little UV torch, which is no longer suitable for larger areas that I've got this time, so I'll whip out this piece of kit. This UV light actually came with the resin itself, and has a built-in timer for 150 seconds, for some reason. It also has legs, so I can quickly forget about them and hold the light myself instead. A couple of 150 seconds later, and it's all done, so I'll rip off the Foamex barrier from the side and admire how it looks nothing like Nanquernal. Perfect. Not knowing when to quit, I pushed forward with the Mod Podge detail. Mod Podge is actually better for surface detail on water than a lot of specifically designed products that I've tried, and I've used a few, including some by MIG Ammo, which seem to stay cloudy for so long even if I apply it in really thin layers. It's simply a case of now stippling the product onto the surface of the resin. I was trying to get some sort of ripple effect here, but I've got a better way, and I'll show you that in a minute. First, the waterfalls. Again, this is a technique I came up with on Corish, which was to mix in some shredded cotton wool into the Mod Podge, which, when dry, will appear as froth or foam inside the water, and not just painted out on top of it, which is a nice bit of detail. It's easily overdone, so it does take some practice with the cotton wool to get it looking quite right. It's also easy to keep adding bits until you're happy with the thickness of the foam, though you'll only get a true picture of the effect when it's cured fully in a few days' time. Now here's the ripples I was talking about. When the Mod Podge is still wet, simply take a straw and then blow into it. As you move the straw around, beautiful ripples will grace your podge. Lovely, graceful podge. It seems a bit more like sea or lake water than a fast-flowing stream, but that's the issue I've made here. And whilst we're on the terrible look I've got here, let's now go live to me doing the layout, being all unhappy. Right, well, I've put the Mod Podge down and I'm waiting for that to dry so I can put the white water on, and I've just been looking through some of my photos and I'm really not happy with this at all. The photo that I used as reference to do the side, it looks okay against that, but when you look at different angles it literally looks nothing like it, so I think I'm never going to be happy with the look of that. The other issue here is that the riverbed or stream is way too sort of almost perfect, and if you look at this photo that I've got from up there, it really isn't. It's very narrow, whereas mine, I was talking to a chap last night, one of my friends, and saying that I knew that this was going to be narrow here, and I'd made it much wider, purely because I think when you're viewing it, it would have this weird little bit of a bank here. I didn't know if that was going to do much for it. But in reality, I think, no, I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to build the bank up on this side and then make it much more narrow, and also have a lot more rock sort of jaggedy coming into it. So I think the only thing I can do is actually rip it off and start again. Which, you know, it's how it goes. It's not really, I can't sort of save it in any way, so I think that's the only answer really. But yeah, this is what happens sometimes. I've sort of had a go at something with an idea of how I was going to do it, and it hasn't worked out. So yeah, we'll start again and see how we get on the next time. So off I go, ripping it all off. Yeah, so there we go. I'll rip it all up now and start again. And you don't need to see that sort of unpleasantness on a Friday or any other day of the week you might be watching it. So instead, sit back and watch some lovely views of Nant Gwernol that I took with the drone last week. Lovely. Cheers.